Hello and welcome to ANC Decides, the show that gives you up-to-the-minute reporting, commentary and analysis building up to the December's elective conference. I'm your host, Mfundo Mabalani. Now let's take a look at what's making headlines. KZN ANC reiterates it's firmly behind Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma as the next ANC president. The province laments a big business running an anti-NDZ campaign. President Jacob Zuma appears in Parliament for the last question and answer session as ANC leader. Opposition parties focus on untested corruption allegations. Controversy around Eguruleni ANC chairperson Mzwandile Masina continues. Some branches claim Masina is openly lobbying for Dlamini-Zuma to be the ANC's president. Our top story today, the ANC in KZN is firmly behind Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma as its preferred presidential candidate. But Dlamini-Zuma's home province laments the bad press she's getting from big business. KwaZulu-Natal ANC says it's prepared to be led by Cyril Ramaphosa if he emerges as the next party president. This comes amid reports of some members saying they would leave the ANC if their preferred candidate doesn't win.
If Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa is elected as the president of the ANC, KwaZulu-Natal will rally behind Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa. Won't go to court and challenge it. And what is going to be critical, as I say, is the ability of the leadership to be elected to reach out to those who are not elected. To accept that those who are not elected are still leaders of our movement and they must be part of the National Executive Committee. And they must be part of this ongoing, protracted effort of changing our country for the better.
However, the biggest ANC bloc says there's a concerted media campaign run by big business against Dlamini-Zuma. The alleged campaign by Capital raises questions about internal party processes being influenced by private interests.
There's a vast capital in this country and international which is not happy with Comrade Nkosazana. Capital. If you want to classify it, Msheng was saying white monopoly capital. There is a concentration in this country of, and that capital is not only manifesting itself in one area of struggling. That capital also determines what becomes news in our country. Okay. The capital determines how frequent can you show Nkosazana on TV and when she says what? How frequent can you show Cyril on TV when he says what? Capital also in the media now will make all efforts to ensure that at all material times their choice of candidate must always appear to be presidential.
Now today in studio, we're joined by political editor of African Times, Karabo Ngwebe, as well as executive director of Self-Reliance Institute, Nhlanhla Ndlovu. Panel, welcome to the both of you.
Thank you very much.
Perhaps to start with you, Karabo. On this particular story, the impact of an endorsement by a PC, how much of an influence can it really have on BGM outcomes at this point when it's said and said over again that the power lies with the branches?
You know, to be honest with you, the power within the ANC is treated less with the branches. But in most cases, the PEC has an influence over the branches in terms of their chairpersons, the people that are in charge of those branches. So they do influence them in terms of who says what and what goes in the different branches of the ANC.
And then as for you, Nhlanhla, your take, if they say that there is some sort of an influence that the PEC can have on branch members, is that not the problem here, that we don't want a situation where members are strong-armed into perhaps preferring a candidate they might not have preferred?
I don't think there is a possibility of strong-arming. But obviously, the influence will have to be exercised through persuasion. And we know for a fact that in any event, PEC has got a base that is most likely to also respond to their preferences. In as much as the other side the CR17 campaign would also have its own people that will also, so, but I just don't think it's a case of strong. I mean, in fact, I just think there's something quite disingenuous about claiming that upper structures like regional executive committees and provincial executive committees must stay out of the process, and it's just not political. It can't happen that branches are just left without influence. There's like a lot at stake here.
But this is something that comes from the Secretary General, that they need to exercise their right, choose their preferred candidates, and those upper structures at this point must somehow back off. So you're saying that isn't right in that manner?
I'm saying it's not even possible, because the upper structures also have got vested interest. The truth is that branches will decide, but it's not like a decision that where you basically stay out and never even try to influence. So they will decide based on the influence that is put on them by upper structures. But there's also like just self-determination of the branches too.
No, it's an interesting point, but we'll certainly come back to it. Now, on to Parliament. President Jacob Zuma has fielded tough questions in his last Q&A session in Parliament as the leader of the ANC. The focus is now on how well Parliament has made use of his scheduled appearances. President Zuma's last Q&A session for the year featured questions about alleged private interests having influence over his administration. The opposition dwelled on allegations that have not been tested in a court of law. Meanwhile, the session raises questions about the opposition not using the opportunity to address issues that are in the nation's best interest.
There are many books in this country that have been written about Jacob Zuma. There are many articles on a daily basis that are written by journalists on the newspapers. I can't tell you exactly what is it that makes them to do so, except my speculation that Zuma leads the biggest party which is in government, which has won elections since democracy, and they are trying to find a way to undermine the ANC more than anything. That is my speculation. There are many books that have talked about Jacob Zuma in this country and saying all speculations and rumors, etc. I don't think my job is to answer books. I've given the answer here.
Now, Karabo, perhaps to start with you on this one, I particularly remember this question. It was asked by Musi Maimane based on the book that was written by Jacques Paul. Now, he was asked on the book, do you feel that he should have answered, or he was right in saying he doesn't answer questions about books?
I think he was within his legal rights not to answer the questions based on the book. It still has to be tested in court, as you said. He still has to appear in court, and if it's raised in a court of law, then he will be obliged to answer those questions. But at this stage, they're just untested allegations. So what would be the point of responding to untested allegations? You're now giving fuel into that fire.
Nhlanhla, your take on the president's responses today?
Well, their responses that basically were showing that the president has considered quite a number of things. Obviously, it doesn't mean that he will convince his interlocutors and opponents. But like a whole lot of responses, for instance, the issue of the state of capture report and how like he's responding to it. In the media, there's really been an absence. I sometimes expect that the media will educate the public on matters that are still sub judice, for instance. When he says then that first his interest is to have a commission, a judicial commission on state capture, but he can't be acting now. A lot of impression has been created that is dilly-dallying and actually is deliberately not going there. Whereas now when he starts like answering, there are questions again that he could have answered better. More especially, I just think the issue about the court expenses or the legal expenses, given the fact that you had 16 days, even if you're going to fudge, but at least basically fudge with like a real considered.
But now the Justice Ministry came, the Justice Minister specifically, Michael Masuta, came to his defense and said it is basically the competence of the Justice Ministry. They could have actually gone on to find out from the State Attorney how much has been spent on litigation. So would you say that within that 16 days, it was actually incumbent upon, it was something that the president should have done and gone to the Justice Ministry and said, can I have those documents, how much it costs, because this is a question I've been asked. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. It's 16 days. It's like sufficient time to do that. Even if you're not going to give facts and figures, at least let the explanations be more cogent and acceptable. So I just think that he opened himself up there for criticism, and the DH basically latched onto it and utilized it as a basis for them to leave the house.
Karabo, your take at least, particularly still on the costs issue, he went on to say that people must understand that the president doesn't institute litigation against himself. He's merely defending himself. Is that enough of an answer?
To a certain extent, it is. If you really want to know the answer to that, you'd have to speak to the Minister of Justice. They're the ones that handle that department. When the president gets taken to court, they appoint the lawyers for the president, and then it's now out of his hands. It's now in the Department of Justice. So how do you go to the same person who doesn't even know what goes on in the legal department to ask him for how much it cost? Chances are he does not even know how much his lawyer costs a day or an hour.
And then the broader conversation among some in society, where they're saying there must come a time where we start to scrutinize and say what can be considered private litigation and public, where in your public capacity where you're working for government, then they must pay for you. Do you think that is fair? Or if you are working for government, they've got to pay whatever it is, private or public?
I think it is fair. We do need to find a middle ground to say this is for your business as the president of the state and this is for your own personal account. But if you look at most of the cases, he's being taken to court as the president of South Africa. So now obviously government would have to foot that bill. It can't be coming from him personally.
No, we'll come back to that one. Now, over to more news on the ANC. The dispute over ANC presidential candidates being imposed on Ekurhuleni branches continues. The issue is around who the chairperson supports versus who the branch's preferred candidate is. The controversy surfaced with media reports claiming that Ekurhuleni chairperson Mzwandile Masina said he would leave the party if Ramaphosa emerged as the next president. But Masina says he was misquoted. However, some branch members say it's an open secret that Masina is lobbying for Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. This raises questions about the ANC branches having the ultimate say in who emerges as the next ANC leader.
It's only a deploy fike late, then administrative fike early. But I was good to Magukalwe, data disappear. No, data might disappear, then there is no record, there is no proper recording over EPHM, then there's no need to buy my plan. I'm not too sure we issue a mandate, but with data, it's a sign over there is a sabotage, because whoever on data, then listens to PGM in a plan. But Dubai is because of Masina. I'm not too sure about that. But I did that on my chonchwa proposed by PGM in a plan, and that is a sabotage.
I cannot say Mzwandile Masina is forcing the CR17 to vote for Nkosazana Zuma, because he didn't force me in anything to vote for. It's my choice that I'm voting for CR17. So I didn't see him on the day. So I cannot say that he's forcing people to vote for who and not to vote for who. But what I know that he's lobbying for Nkosazana as much as he appeared on national television and talked about it, that he's lobbying for Nkosazana. But the part of forcing people, that one I cannot attest to.
We now cross over to our reporter Sindisiwe Twala. Sindisiwe, warm welcome to you. Now, you visited Mzwandile Masina's Ward 51 following those reports that he barged into a BGM disrupting it. What are branch members actually saying happened on Saturday?
A very, very good day to you as well as the viewers. Like you've correctly cited, yes, we visited Ward 51. That particular branch had a BGM on the previous Saturday. And what we know took place is that there was disruptions in terms of there was no register at some point. But the main point of contention, rather, is the fact that the administrators arrived early and everybody got into the particular branch. But when it was time for the data to be put in place so that they could actually start voting, it was said that the data had vanished. But to their perusal, they found a paper that had the record showing that the data actually could have been taken. You also correctly heard from the secretary of the zonal coordinators of the branch meetings. They basically said that it does look like sabotage. We also spoke to a branch member who also spoke on air, also describing what exactly happened off air as to what happened on that particular day. He said that he did not see Mzwandile Masina as cited in other media reports, that he was there and he tried to push in and tried to stop that particular branch meeting from taking place. But what we're hearing word from the ground for other people who want to remain anonymous is that he in fact was there, but we're yet to find out what exactly happened. But another thing about the Ekurhuleni region more specifically is that we know that in August, late August, the REC came out and said that they're endorsing NDZ. But the specific branches from who form part of that particular REC said that they were not consulted. And how can the REC, meaning the region, talk for the branches before their consultation? So there's that issue of branches are not given enough time to speak. And they're also saying that sabotage in other branches, also in Edenvale, where data is miraculously leaving the premises just before BGMs are supposed to take place. Others are saying it's because the Cyril Ramaphosa camp is there in numbers at that time.
Now, to the crux of the matter, those present, the branch members that were present at that meeting that ended up not happening, were they NDZ members? Were they Cyril Ramaphosa? Do we have some clarity there? Because then it would perhaps be more clearer for us.
Yes, in majority from what we're hearing, the members that were there on that particular Saturday were Cyril Ramaphosa members, but we're not sure if it's just Cyril Ramaphosa and other members, but we know that it was the Cyril Ramaphosa members that were there in numbers.
And then you speak of some sort of anxiety or fear right now because a number of people don't want to speak to you on camera. Why the sudden fear?
From what we're hearing from people off air is that they're afraid to speak because they do not know what will happen to them in the future. This could be economical, this could be however, this could be in positions in the future, because what we're knowing is people are battering each other or talking in order to appease other people so that they also get spots in the branch leadership, in the REC leadership, and essentially in the PC leadership. But we're also going to be attending other branch meetings just before they commence because we're not allowed inside, and just hear more moods on the ground, whether data is in some of these branch meetings and whether they'll be able to cast their votes as members in good standing of the ANC.
An interesting picture you're painting for us there, but also concerning that there's data vanishing and people fearing some sort of, for their lives, I suppose. But thank you very much, Sindisiwe Twala. Panel, Karabo, what do you make of this interview now? We've got data vanishing. We've heard from the Secretary General there, the Secretary of that specific branch, saying data vanished. And Mzwandile Masina was supposedly at the meeting, but there's also talks that he wasn't. What do you make of the politics in Ekurhuleni right now?
Look, unfortunately, politics has become a game where you need to appease people to secure your positions in future. That is exactly what is happening with all the BGMs. But now, with that exact clip, it actually raises a lot of questions. If they are saying that the power lies in the branches, so why is it that they're saying Mzwandile is influencing the processes of branch members nominating? He is endorsing.
Becomes the question.
It becomes the question. So what power do the branches have then? If their leader, their regional chairperson, can actually have a say on who gets what?
But Nhlanhla actually said that they would, to a certain degree, have an influence. So what do you make of this? Because it seems they want to exercise their democratic right, but there possibly could be some sort of influence that they don't welcome.
Yeah, it's a bit of a complex situation because, for starters, I think that the administrative problems in the ANC as a whole are not new. And I doubt, in fact, that there's any branch in the land and breadth of South Africa that can really say when the branch is sitting, the credentials are a true reflection of the branch membership. So there's manipulation administratively across the board. Now, I just think that somehow it's one of those things that you actually ask a question that if we were to go, like if there were to be litigations left, right, and center, will the ANC stand in terms of like its processes? So I think that is not just an issue of upper structures influencing, but also remember that In terms of the administrative processes, even of request for membership and the approvals of membership, the upper structure has always had an influence on ensuring that they receive the applications and process them. So this is basically, and in truth, they are able, the upper structures like regions and provinces are able to gauge the mood. They know for a fact that this branch is supporting this group. So they're bearing influence in favor of the candidates that they are supporting.
But beyond this, the question of patronage here. When Karabo is talking about perhaps some trying to appease a certain grouping or certain faction, can we run away from the issue of patronage here, where some people are expecting to benefit and they could be swayed towards this faction or the other because they expect to benefit something?
The short answer is that it's virtually impossible to move away from patronage. The issue about governing party is that it has got so much resources basically to influence, like it can change a life of an ordinary, it has done actually. They are ordinary activists just by virtue of being an activist. Their lives have turned, they've become tenderpreneurs, others have actually got jobs and so on and so forth. So that's why when they say people don't want to speak on camera, it's because they are also hedging their bets. That sure, I can vote in the branch meeting, but I don't want to be identified on TV as the person who's pursuing a particular line. Should our candidate lose, the chicken will come home to roast in January.
And then the conversation around big business perhaps also having a vested interest in all that's happening right now in the ANC. Is that now a conspiracy theory, or there could be people that are genuinely interested on the outcome?
I just think that there is the nature of what you call a bourgeois democratic state. In a sense, the rulership in capitalism is that of business. So business has got a serious interest on the state. So just conceptually, from a point of view of what the state is in capitalism, there's simply no way that the business can stay out of it. It has got an interest in that respect. But it also has an interest in influencing the politics of parties. More especially if you are going to influence the politics of a ruling party, you are most likely to have conditions in which like your business will conduct itself in a manner that is more conducive for you. So I just think that what we should not be doing is to create an impression that there is a possibility of a capitalist economy to run without business taking an interest. What we should be saying then is that these interests must just not be unfettered, and they must not basically run amok with the democracy. So they have to be tempered with, we have to be aware of them, and then mitigate their power and influence in parties and in the political process in the nation.
Karabo, would we be naive in thinking that if capital was interested, they would only perhaps identify the deputy president because he's somebody that's been in business? Or it's a possibility that big business would actually identify all 7 candidates, have conversations with them and say, if you're going to win, let's have a conversation?
I think big business would look at all 7 leaders of the party, because at the end of the day, you're not only dealing with one individual. Whatever you're proposing to the ANC has to be taken to the leadership as a collective. You're not speaking to one individual. So it's of paramount importance to the businesses to understand what we can call the slate of that particular individual. And if you look at the slate and you say, okay, but this one does not go hand in hand with the vision that we have as a business and of investing in the economy of the country. So you would not go for that. And also going back to the issue of patronage. See, with the positions within the ANC, in order for you to ascend to a certain position, obviously you're going to have people backing you up. And for you to have those people backing you up, you need to make promises to them. Once you get into power, you have to now fulfill those promises that you made. That is what is actually happening. That's why certain people can come on in front of the camera saying, we are supporting so-and-so.
But what does this mean for ordinary citizens? We're watching this race as it builds up, and ordinary citizens are saying, we're seeing people moving from this position to another, but is it really in the interest of ordinary citizens? Or we're now watching a movie where it seems everybody's in it for themselves?
Unfortunately, it's them first and then the people after. They're sorting themselves out first to ensure that they have a comfortable future, and then doing for South Africa afterwards. That is how politics works, unfortunately.
Nhlanhla, your closing remarks?
I just think that the question you're asking about ordinary citizens is a big conundrum of the ANC because every time it sees setbacks, it then says we're going to go back to the drawing boards, and then we want to continue to be a leader of society, and basically the disciplined force of the left that transforms society. But when you're seeing what the actions are, there's simply no introspection, there's no going back to the drawing boards and so on. And in fact, the municipal elections of last year indicated that there's a significant loss of support. So after the first there's this conference in December, the elective conference. But after the elective conference, ANC has to really think hard. What then does it sell between January 2018 and the election time in 2019? Because that's what is going to make or break it.
No, interesting. Your closing remarks, Karabo?
Yeah, I think what's going to happen in December is either going to make or break the ANC. I think going forward, people, as he has said, people have already lost faith in the party. We saw that during the local government elections. And if the culture of what is happening right now continues going forward, I don't see them actually breaking the 50% mark that is required to be able to govern in 2019.
As some have predicted, it might be that grand year of coalitions. We might not see, or we might see at least the ANC going to bed with the EFF. Might be far-fetched.
We might see two parties in January.
Hey, we just might. Now, on to our poll question. The question this week is, does the South Africa need a state-owned bank to finance black industrialists? We'll be getting the views from the branch members from our teams on the ground, but we'd also like to get your views at home, even if you aren't a branch member. So do tweet us your responses. Our Twitter handle is @ANN7TV, or visit our website. It's www.ann7.com. And that's where we end today's show. Until next time.